Welcome to our Saturday best bets here on Betting with the Bag. We have Daby Cab with us and action afoot. Daby Cab starts out with his best bets, also our live stream here right after our big Saturday Means Football show with Jeff Nadu and Peter Lochak. Then I've got two spots, and then Daby closes with two spots. There are 5 games on this segment. Let's get into them as I pop off first. And oh no, you pop off first. My bad. You pop off with the big live stream game. So let's get after it right now and set this one up. Here we go. 12 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, the number 6 ranked Oklahoma Sooners 7-0, 4-0 in the Big 12 at Kansas Jayhawks 5-2, 2-2 in the Big 12. We're at David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium in Lawrence, Kansas, and the weather changes drastically on Saturday. It's very warm today. It's Thursday, and then it changes drastically on Saturday. Temperatures plummet. Same thing goes on Sunday. You know, the Broncos-Chiefs game, there could be snow. It's down to 34 Fahrenheit. But right now it's warm. On Saturday it's cool. And in Lawrence, Kansas on Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern, it is 40 Fahrenheit, cloudy with 9 miles per hour. Let's get into the line history here for this one. Daby Cab's first game on his best bet slate. We have Kansas right now as 9.5 or 9-point dogs in most books, except for the sharpest, and that is Pinnacle. Pinnacle has them as 10-point dogs. Now, that is juiced to minus 117, but 30 minutes ago at 1:19 p.m., it was minus 112. And at 8 in the morning, it was minus 110. At 11:15 yesterday, it was minus 107. So they've been at 10 for quite some time here. But it is getting more and more juice, that Kansas plus 10. But this opened at 10.5. Yes, it moved down to 9.5, and we see 9s on the board, but this opened at 10.5 and is still at 10 for Kansas. So a very slight move towards them. From a total scenario here, we are sitting with a 65. 65. This opened up at 66. It's dropped 1 point to 65. And then when we get into the cash flow for our big Saturday live bet stream hosted by Daby Cab and Connor Mack, 74% of the tickets and 76% of the cash is on Kansas. So why was there the buyback in the market, I wonder? From a total scenario here, we have just 17 tickets on the under and 65% of the cash. Wow. And it's dropped a point and the public's on the over. That is fascinating. Sooners come in off a big 34-30 win over Texas in the Red River rivalry as 4-point dogs before barely getting past UCF at home as 17-point favorites last week. Kansas comes in off its second loss in 3 games, 39-32 at Oklahoma State as 3-point favorites. Are they vulnerable here? Daby Cab, your best bet. Take it away.
Well, one of best bets, but let's just go over both these real quick. I'll go Gabriel on the season. You know, he's leading the Big 12 in total passing yards. He's got 2,131 yards on the season already. That works out to 304.4 yards per game, 19 touchdowns to the only 3 interceptions. So great ratio there. QBR rating of 87.6, which is 4th in the nation. He's just been outstanding. Oklahoma has the top scoring offense in the Big 12, putting up 43.1 points per game, which is also 4th in the nation. So like I said, firing on all cylinders. Jayhawks this season, they've been in and out of the top 25 rankings. You know, it seems like every time they crack through, they fall right back down. You know, they were 24th when they lost to Texas. They got their way back up to 23rd and then lost to Oklahoma State, who's showing to be a little bit better football team than I think we thought. You know, but even in that game, Kansas was up and found a way to lose it. Daniels is still questionable here for Oklahoma. It's been Bean, the senior, Jason Bean. I think he's going to continue to stand in. He's played more than Daniels this season anyways. So he's got 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. You know, that's good. He threw for 410 yards against Oklahoma State. So again, he's been doing great. This is just, you know, this is a thing where top football teams like Oklahoma, they look over their opponents sometimes. You know, they play down to their level. They step down to an opponent, you know, and people are always looking to catch. Like when that happens, it does not often happen 2 weeks in a row if it is a genuine top tier football team. And I believe that Oklahoma is really one of the top teams in the nation here. I do not think they slip up like they did last week. I think they come out ready to play football. And you've seen, against a better defense like Texas, Kansas, as good as their offense is, that it can get shut down, and their defense is, plenty vulnerable to this Sooners offense. So what I did in this game, with my leading into the theory that Oklahoma comes out ready to play, it's not going to be like last week. I took Oklahoma in the first half, -5.5, -110.
-5.5 at -110. It feels like this is a sharp under, just judging the market. Can you touch on the X's and O's to possibly give me confidence to bet this under? Because it's gone from 66 to 65, and we have the public betting the over, but it looks like we have the pros betting the under. Can you touch on your thoughts on that total that has dropped a point despite 83% of the tickets on the over?
When we talk about totals here, especially at a number like 65, if it's a blowout, like you look at, like, again, the Texas game that I'm going to reference where they lost 40-14, it just doesn't get there. And I think this might be a blowout, Jimmy. I genuinely think Oklahoma might lay the fucking wood to Kansas here, even at home. And in blowout type situations, the game goes under. I think that Oklahoma could hold Kansas's offense down here. Kansas's defense, I wouldn't put much trust in them. They're allowing 396.1 yards of offense per game, which is 10th in the Big 12. And I talked about Gabriel and, Oklahoma's offense already. But again, if it's a blowout, yeah, I think it goes under, and I think it's a blowout.
I'm going to bet the under. So I have a look now on Daby's first best bet of this Saturday card. He's on the Sooners first half -5.5. Don Play also liking the under. Coin saying this opened at circa at 68.5. I like everything about this. Nice to have more action on Saturday. Let's move on to the next game here, and this has become my best bet of the weekend.
Ooh.
We move on to Western Michigan Broncos. I almost start laughing just because I know you guys like the high-profile games. I'm sorry.
You guys. Yeah, I like all of it, man. I like all of it. Look, I said it last week. If you put this on a Tuesday, everybody would love it.
Bum fights. Well, it's the alone 1 p.m. game. How about that? Western Michigan Broncos 2-6, 1-3 in the MAC at the Eastern Michigan Eagles 4-4, 2-2 in the MAC. We're in Ypsilanti, Michigan here. 51 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour. Let's get into this line history here for this one. The lone 1 p.m. starter here. And now, obviously, there is a bit of a bias because we were heavy on Jacksonville State when they beat Eastern Michigan. I was in Jacksonville State when they beat them 21-0, watched the game, cashed heavily on it, and it felt great. But I feel like this is a perfect spot as well. This total opened up at 44.5 and has gone up to 47. We have a 2.5-point move towards the over at Pinnacle. And from a point spread standpoint here, we are sitting with Western Michigan -3 at -103. They opened up at -2, and they're now at 3. This 3 got up to -116. Got up there yesterday. It was heavily juiced, and it's come down. It's come down. Maybe that would make someone nervous here. Not really for me. But it's a little, it's not, I don't like it. Let me just say that. I don't like it. But I've loved this spot as I've studied it. We have 64% of the tickets and 87% of cash on the under, and yet it's just climbed. This total has just climbed. Then we have 61% of the tickets and 67% of the cash on Western Michigan. 61 and 67, and the markets move towards them. So yes, Western Michigan has lost 4 of 5 football games. But they've come against really strong competition. Let's go over the 5 games. They lost 49-31 at the overall conference leader, Toledo. They beat Ball State at home easily, 42-24. Then they lose at Mississippi State, 41-28. Then they face the 2 other leaders of the MAC, right? They lose to Miami of Ohio at home, 34-21. Miami, Ohio is a good football team. And then they lose at Ohio, 2017. I'm telling you, they are primed to put together a winning streak against the weaker competition of the MAC. And I think Eastern Michigan is weak competition in the MAC. The Western Michigan defense, if you just look at the statistics, they're bad. But again, I stress, look who they've played. They're allowing 34.3 points per game, 405 yards per game. The fact that, the 34.3 points allowed is 122nd in the country, I just don't believe it tells the story here. Their 6'5" junior quarterback, Hayden Wolf, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, 698 passing yards. They have Jalen Buckley, who's a monster, 637 yards rushing with 5 touchdowns. Kenneth Womack, he's only got 1 touchdown catch, but that also doesn't tell the story. I think he's very talented, and he's got a good thing going with Wolf. Then there are angles here and trends. And you can come up with trends that tell you Western Michigan is a spot, and you can come up with trends that tell you Eastern Michigan is a spot. And I'll give you both. I'm not just only going to give you the Western Michigan side just because I'm betting, or I've bet them and I like them. But the favorite has won in Western Michigan's last 8 games. They're the road favorite here. Western Michigan's covered the spread in all of their last 7 road games against conference opponents. So let's move on to Eastern Michigan. They beat Ball State and Kent State at home. Who cares? Those are bad football teams. And I watched the Kent State Eastern Michigan game, and Kent State, opened up with a fake kick in their opening kickoff. They opened up with an onside kick, and it was returned 44 yards to the house. It wasn't as bad as the score looked against a really bad Kent State team. Then they went to Northern Illinois and lost 2013 as 11.5-point dogs. So both teams are coming off covering games. They're only scoring 18.3 points per game. That's 123rd in the country. They average 110.5 yards rushing. That's 115th in the country. They're throwing 143.1 yards per game. That's 126th in the country. Their total offense is 132nd in the country. It's terrible. Austin Smith, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, sure that you can say the same sort of thing about Hayden Wolf, and that's fine. And then here are the edges for Eastern Michigan. The home team has won the last Eastern Michigan's last 8 games in their home here. And Eastern Michigan's covered the spread in each of its last 6 games against conference opponents. We had a similar stat for Western Michigan. The fact that Western Michigan is 2-6 going up against a 4-4 Eastern Michigan team, and they're the favorite, it's because of who they played. And they're going to go to Ypsilanti, and they're going to beat Eastern Michigan. And I'm going to cash again, fading the Eastern Michigan Eagles. What do you think of this spot, Daby Cab? Take it away, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan.
You kept saying, what tells the story, right? The line should tell you the story. Western Michigan's favored on the road here, coming into this game. Anybody who looks at it's going to see their record and just think, oh, why is this terrible team favored here on the road? Well, they're favored because of the competition. You also touched on this, so I don't want to reiterate everything too much, but even as bad as Mississippi State is, that's a step up in competition here. There's levels to this, just like there is anything else. Shout out to Dutch. I know he always says that. And you've seen it. Toledo, plenty of these games with Western Michigan, they played against better competition and they played good football games. Whereas you look at Eastern Michigan, you could argue that Jacksonville State's really one of their only step-up games they played, and they didn't put up a point, in that game early on in the season. I'd be on Western Michigan or pass here. I'm not betting this, but that's where I'd be.
Well, I will bet this. So this is the best bet for me of the weekend, is Western Michigan Broncos, 1 p.m. Eastern. We move on to the next spot, and I like it more and more and more. And we did best bets yesterday. I'm so happy we're doing it again because in the end, I like these 2 spots more than the 2 I moved on yesterday. So let's move on to this spot right here, please. There we go. Let's roll. 3 p.m. Eastern. This is my second best bet on the card. Memphis Tigers 5-2, 2-1 in the American at North Texas Mean Green, 3-4, 1-2 in the American. We're in Denton, Texas, and there's scattered thunderstorms. It could be raining during this game. It might not be. It's unclear. There's definitely going to be rain at some point during the game. 64 Fahrenheit. It is warm. Let's go into the line history here for this one, popping off at 3 p.m. The lone 3 p.m. game, I should say as well. Now, Pinnacle has moved this all the way to 7. Now that 7's at plus money. That 7 was at minus 103 at one point, but it's at plus money. Every other book's at 7.5. Every other book. But Pinnacle, the sharpest of them all, is offering you Memphis on the 7. I think that's important here. Opened up at 8.5. We've had a 1.5 point move towards North Texas. Let's get into the total here for this one. And over here for the 3 p.m. spot. Oh, sorry. Got to get this refreshed here. I have too many things open up. I apologize. Here we go. 3 p.m. The total on Memphis, North Texas is very high. It's sitting right now at 69. It opened up at 67.5. We got up to 70 before there was buyback. So we have a move to the over, and we have a move to North Texas. Let's take a look at the cash flow for this one. You have North Texas is a very public spot. You know, I mean, it can't all be perfect. 83% of the tickets are on North Texas and 78% of the cash. But at least this line is moved down to 7 or 7.5 where I got it. From a total side of things, you have 85% of the tickets and 85% of the cash on the over. And Ronnie Imburia says he's cashed on the Mean Green 3 times this year, including 2 in a row. So both teams have a familiar foe in Tulane, a very good football team. Memphis lost at home to Tulane 31-21 as 5-point dogs. Then they bounced back and beat UAB, a really bad UAB squad, something unfamiliar, over the last few years. I mean, much better, bad this year. They beat them 45-21 on the road as 7.5-point favorites. Everybody sees that Memphis just beat UAB 45-21. UAB outgained Memphis 381-352. It was that UAB turned the ball over 4 times. Memphis didn't have a turnover. Now, we talk about the Memphis offense all year, averaging 416.1 yards per game. Defensively, they're bad. They allow 371.1 yards per game. Has Seth Hennigan taken the next step that people expected? 15 touchdowns, 7 picks. He's completing 66.3% of his passes. I don't know. North Texas comes in off having played Tulane very tough. In New Orleans, on the road. 35-28 is 20-point dogs. And they put up 426 yards against Tulane. Chandler Rogers did everything you could hope for. He's doing that this year. 14 touchdowns and 1 interception Rogers has. He completed 35. He went 35 of 51 for 343 yards against Tulane. This North Texas team is real. They're only 1-2 in the American. They're only 3-4 on the season. Chandler Rogers at home will take care of business and get the cover. I'm on the Mean Green here in Denton, Texas. Not too far away from you, Daby Cab. What do you think of this spot, Memphis, North Texas?
Yeah, it's not far away, man. I always pay attention to when Pinnacle has a better line. I don't bet with Pinnacle, but I still like to look at the line since I've heard you and Pete talk about that. Memphis has been good on both sides of the ball here. Offense is 20th in the nation, putting up 35.6 yards per game. Defense is 51st in the nation on points per game. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm sold on this Memphis team. I've gone so back and forth this year. This is a team I usually follow. I like them more in basketball and ready for college basketball season. But North Texas, as far as, being a mid-tier team this season with a 3-4 record, they've still done things like you just said. They played a good game against Tulane. They lost that football game they were always going to, but they played a good game there. Their quarterback played well in that game. It was very impressive. I got no problem taking the points here with Memphis, with North Texas. But really, I think it goes over even at 69.5, which is why I got no problem taking the points. I just think there's not going to be anybody stopped at very many points in this game. I know that I said Memphis has been good on both sides of the ball. But they still have holes on defense here. I think it gets over. I just think it gets over. I think there's plenty of points.
Do you want to make the over official here for our record keeping purposes?
This is not going to find its way into my best bets of Saturday.
It's going to find a way into mine. North Texas,
I love it.
Mean Green plus 7.5 in Denton, Texas. We move on. 2 more games, and then, yes, everybody, the Cappers Contest show is a go. It's going to go right after this. Let's move on to the next spot on the board. And we head to the Pac-12, to Berkeley, California for this one. 4 p.m. Eastern. Number 24 ranked USC Trojans, 6-2, 4-1 in the Pac-12 at the California Golden Bears, 3-4, 1-3 in the Pac-12. We're at California Memorial Stadium, 64 Fahrenheit, sunny, 9 miles per hour. There's perfect rotation in the house. Dav Fenn also saying we're 1 like away from 100. Thank you guys for your support. It means a ton to us. Let's get into the line history for Cab's second best bet on today's card. And this one will be fun. We'll start with the total sitting at 67.5. Opened up at 67. It got up to 68.5. There's been a point of buyback, so it's sitting at 67.5. Let's get into the spread here for this one. From a point spread perspective, this is sitting at 11 for USC, minus 11. They opened up at minus 10, up to 10.5, down to 10, and then back to 11, where they have stayed. Now, this 11 is juiced to Cal. So when it first moved to 11, it was minus 108 on each side. So at 11, there's been an 8-cent move to Cal, but there's been a 1-point move overall to the Trojans. Let's take a look at the cash flow here for this 4 p.m. spot. We have on the total 11% of tickets on the under and 37% of cash. That is very, very interesting. 89% of the tickets on the over. It started to move up and then it dropped a point. That has piqued my interest. 67% of tickets and 89% of cash on Cal. And the lines moved a point to USC. Very, very interesting. USC comes off its second straight loss, 34-32 at home to Utah as 7.5-point favorites. That was our live bet stream. So Cab was heavily invested in that and watching every second of it. Cal comes in off its bye week. We last saw them also losing to Utah in Salt Lake City, though, 34-14 as 9.5-point dogs. Ian Shaber says, I think Cal covers. Coin saying, I love this information from Coin as well with the Circa openers. Circa opened this up at 67.5. Daby Cab's best bet, numero 2, USC Trojans, California Golden Bears. Take it away.
Yeah, that was a great game, man. That was a lot of fun to be live for that game. I didn't, I had a huge bet on Ole Miss second half. I gave it out, told everybody, a lot of people got on it, and that wasn't necessarily the game we were live to, but that cashed. And then we, focused back in here on USC and got in on USC live when they were losing with only I think 6 minutes left or so. We got plus 260. Some people got better lines. Barely missed out on that, but it was still a lot of fun. And it felt like a good bet, at plus money since it just missed on the field goal. I think, like or hate Lincoln Riley here, you look at what he said after the football game, and this is, Jimmy, one of the things I think we could do here at Pub Sports Radio, and I don't mean to take too much time because I know we got to hurry, but is have people get on here and debate certain things. Like, should Caleb Williams pack it in for the season? Should he be done, because he should be a first-round draft pick, this, that, and the other. That was a hot topic going around. And, some people have their opinions because he can't win a Heisman now. USC's not going to the playoffs now, right? All these things that were on their checklist, to do for the beginning of the season, they're gone. They've been checked off. So what's left? And I think a lot of people here, this would be like a situation where most people would say, why would I bet on USC at this point? And that's where, you talk about your Western Michigan and Eastern Michigan. That's where I find value in games that are bigger games that aren't necessarily that exciting for people is when, everybody bails. Everybody's out on USC right now. What Lincoln Riley said after the game, last week, he said it was a heavyweight battle. 2 good football teams going at it, came down to the last play. And he said his locker room is torn up, but it should be torn up. They had 2 losses in a row. So what it's going to come down to is who are they going to play for? What are they going to play for? And I think this is a situation where USC still comes out. Caleb Williams is going to keep playing. Okay. Things are different now. They can openly make money. People have always made money in college football, but when people talk about the money, if you think he's not already paid, you're out of your mind. He's already paid, right? He's already making millions of dollars. He's going to play. He's going to show up. He's going to just increase his draft stock. And I think in the first half here, getting USC under a touchdown against California is a steal. USC's offense is still what their offense always has been, even after these 2 losses against really good football teams. California is a team I've attacked a couple times. I'm 2-0 betting against them this year in the first half. If I can get a team like USC, I had Utah in the first half. Now it came down to the wire, but it cashed, and that's all that matters. You give me, under a touchdown in the first half with, a team that I think is just on another level, I'm going to take it. USC here, first half. That's where I'm at.
USC first half. What was the line that you got?
-6, -110.
What do you think of the public hammering this over and it moving towards the under?
Yeah, I don't think Cal's going to, even with how bad USC's defense is, I don't think Cal's going to put up a ton of points here. I told you earlier, I don't mean to be repetitive, but I try and find spots that I feel like this about. If I think a game could be a blowout, I think it goes under, right? Mm-hmm. Remember I said that this is where I'm at here again. If I think USC, gets ahead early, which I think is what happens, I think it's a relaxing second half that cruises to the under and USC winning.
And Lincoln Riley with pneumonia, I thought that he was going to be back on the sidelines this Saturday, but that may not. I mean, with pneumonia, you don't know.
You never know.
Because sometimes, you saw me in Costa Rica. I had to come back to work for other reasons, so it stuck with me for 9 months. I had 9 months of pneumonia, but I worked through it. It was horrible. So we don't know. But I heard that he was going to be back on the sidelines on Saturday. But that is an interesting spot. I'm going to look closer at this under. It just feels like public all over this over here. And if the Trojans are somewhat checked out, will they be as locked in offensively? Robert Franklin on Cal plus 11. Dad Fence at 67 is another big number, but again, he leans to the over. And Ian Shaber thinking Cal covers. Key and VP Eats and Travel says, long day, not for me. I love this stuff. Key and VP Eats. We move on to the final game here on today's show. The Cappers contest has been pushed back 20 minutes to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. Eastern is the final best bet here. And it is the number 21 ranked Tennessee Volunteers, 5-2, 2-2 in the SEC, at the Kentucky Wildcats, 5-2, also 2-2 in the SEC. We're at Kroger Field in Lexington, Kentucky, 70 Fahrenheit, cloudy, 3 miles per hour. Let's get into the line history here for Cabby's last best bet on the board. We're sitting here with Kentucky as 3.5 point favorites. That's where they opened, but it initially moved to 3, got back to 3.5 and up to 4, and then dropped to 3.5. So overall, we've had an 8 to 10 cent move, depending on what side you're looking at. An 8 cent move towards Tennessee at -3.5, or a 10 cent move away from Kentucky from -12 down to -102 at the +3.5. So Tennessee Volunteers, 3.5 point road favorites. Let's take a look at the total then for this one. Here we go. Tennessee, Kentucky total. Sorry, it's moving a little slow. And here we go. This one at 7 p.m. And we're dealing with 51s and 51.5s, depending on where you shop. Over at Pinnacle, it's a flat 51. Opened up at 51.5, and it dropped to 51 this morning at 11:30 a.m. Again, it was yesterday. It moved to 11 on Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. at 51. A half-point move towards the under. And from a cash flow standpoint, you have 51% of the tickets on Kentucky and 82% of the cash. And from a total perspective, you have 73% of the tickets and 96% cash on the under. 96% cash on the under. Absolutely wild. Here we go. Tennessee comes in off having their 3-game winning streak snapped in a 34-20 loss at Alabama as 8.5 point dogs. And Kentucky comes in off its second straight double-digit loss, losing 38-21 at home to Missouri as 1.5 point favorites. Tennessee, the road favorite here. Take it away for us here, Daby Cab, SEC action, Volunteers, Wildcats.
Yeah, Has this line? How much movement do you have on this line? Because a lot of the money and tickets are on Kentucky. It sounds like, and I don't. As far as I know, it's only moved slightly towards Tennessee, right?
No, it initially moved towards Kentucky. It went from the plus 3.5 down to plus 3. So that was the initial move, and then it started moving towards Tennessee to 3.5 to 4, and then back to 3.5.
Okay, gotcha. Kentucky coming in, they lost their second game straight here to Missouri on Saturday night. They were up 14-0 in that game, and then by halftime they were down 17-14. And then they had they gave up 18 points in the fourth quarter, didn't put up any points. It's just the same old Kentucky, the same shit, different fucking year. Excuse my language getting in there, but it is what it is with Kentucky. Their quarterback, Leary, went 14-27 in the game with just 120 yards, 2 interceptions. Just, not good play here. Whereas Tennessee, I know that they were up early against Bama and then blew it, but and this is a disappointing situation for Tennessee because that loss to Alabama all but eliminates their chances at an SEC title, I'd say. And now they're going to go meet a Kentucky team that this is kind of somewhat of a rivalry, you could say here, and they're beating them. They've owned it. I mean, the only reason it's not a bigger rivalry at this point in time is just because Tennessee's owned Kentucky. They've won 4 of their last 5 meetings, and the Volunteers have dominated this all-time series. If you look back, which I'm not going to because it doesn't. I don't think that really affects now. I'm just saying they've won since this has started. Tennessee is going to be tested here. The Wildcats do have a good run defense. It's 13th in the nation. So Milton's going to have to step up here, the quarterback. But he's got a chance here to do it. This is Kentucky's pass defense is only 102nd in the nation. So they definitely are vulnerable there, which I think is where Milton's going to be able to exploit them. And I think that I think this game is going to be decided by, defense's ability to get off the field, which, Volunteers on third down, 34th in the nation, whereas Kentucky is 97th in the nation. I think Tennessee is able to get off the field. I think they're able to move the ball through the air. So I got Tennessee here. I also took them in the first half here because I got it under a field goal, -2.5 at -109.
Let's get that for you. Big shout out to Dante Mack, now a member of Pub Sports Radio. We love seeing that, Dante. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So we have Tennessee first half for Cab. Tennessee first half -2.5 at -109, 7 p.m. action over in Lexington. That is our show for today. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Daby Cab, for all of your hard work. Best bets in business here. Again, a review of best bets. Cab's on Tennessee first half -2.5. He's on USC first half -6. I'm going to look at the under after the show in that one. I'm on North Texas Mean Green +7.5 -110. I'm on Western Michigan -3 at -1. -103 at Pinnacle, but it is available market right at -110, and I didn't let that move scare me. Then Cab is on Oklahoma first half -5.5, and I am moving on the under in that one. That is our best bets. Please follow Daby Cab on Twitter at Daby Cab. Don't forget his big Saturday live stream on that Sooners Jayhawks game and Medicate Mondays every Monday. Daby Cab, any last words for the Cappers supporting the show, my man?
Oh, we don't have anything without you guys. So thank you guys, all you guys. You put your hard action in there too. And man, so many of you guys, I pay attention to your action because you cash on the daily. I just fucking love being a part of this, man. So shout out to you guys in the chat.